Today we're going to take a look at the absolute beginner's guide on how to restring a guitar. Be sure to check out the timestamps in the description, and if you're ready, let's get started. Alright, so here is the guitar that we're going to restring today. And I remember as a beginning guitarist, restringing a guitar was kind of a daunting task, so we're going to keep it simple. And so the first thing you're going to need is just a set of strings. So what I like to use are just the simple Diodario strings. You can get this 3-pack on Amazon, you can go to your local music store, Guitar Center, wherever you want to go to get your strings. And that's really the only thing that you need as a beginning guitarist. Now there are some tools that you can use and certain other gadgets you can use to make the project or make the restringing of guitar easier, but to keep it simple, all you really need is just the guitar strings and the actual guitar itself. And now the reason I have paper towels is because when you're restringing your guitar, after a while, when you play it on the guitar for a while, on the fretboard, you're going to notice that there's some junk in between the frets. And so using a paper towel to clean out the gunk that's on the fretboard is recommended, just to make sure that you can keep the longevity of your guitar. And the last thing is this little tool here. And so I don't know the actual name of this tool, but what this does, it allows you to be able to use this portion right here and slide it onto one of the tuning knobs, and it basically allows you to crank the tuning knob as you're turning it like a little handle, and that makes it a little bit easier when you're restringing the guitar. So let's go ahead and jump into it and see how we get this process going. Alright, so the first thing we are going to do is use this tool, and what we want to do is we want to loosen the strings so that we don't have tension, and then that way we can take the pegs out of the bridge and then also take the string off of the actual tuning knob. So let's go ahead and do that now. So as you can see, now the string is nice and loose. So now we'll do the same thing with the A string. So now I'm going to go ahead and do that with all the other strings and get them nice and loose. Alright, and now you can see all the strings are nice and loose. So now we're going to go ahead and take the strings off the actual fretboard. So let's go ahead and do that now. So one thing you'll notice when people are removing guitar strings is a lot of the time they'll use something like these, either wire cutters, needle nose pliers, something that they can use to snip the wires on the guitar string. The reason I'm not going to use these, I just want to show you that as a beginner, you don't need a bunch of tools in order to restring your guitar. You can literally just use your fingers to crank the tuning knobs, and you can just pull the string straight out. You don't even have to worry about cutting the guitar strings or anything like that. So again, using a tool like this is not even required, but it does help so you don't have to sit there and turn the tuning knobs with your fingers. So let's go ahead and continue and remove all the strings. Alright, so now, as you can see, we've got all the strings loosened and taken off of the fretboard. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove all of these pegs from the bridge and then remove the strings completely. So let's go ahead and do that now. Alright, so now that we've got all of these strings taken off the guitar, what we're going to do is clean up the fretboard just a little bit. And so like I was saying earlier, I'm going to use these paper towels with just a little bit of water to clean some of the gunk off of the fretboard. And so there's a lot of products that people sell that you can use that has oil in it, multiple different types of products you can get. For this purpose right here, I'm just going to use just a slight bit of water right here and just wipe off some of the gunk that's here on the fretboard. Now, depending on the quality of guitar you have, the type of wood, all of those factors, that's going to determine what type of product you want to use. But for ease of this beginner's tutorial, just so you realize you don't have to necessarily have all the best products and cleaning supplies, all that stuff, this is just a beginner tutorial, so I'm going to show you how to use the very basics with what you already have in your house. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get my water, I'm gonna take a very small amount of it and put on the paper towel. Sometimes people recommend soapy water, warm water, so on and so forth. Just need a little bit of water on there just like that. And now what I'm gonna do is just gently put a little bit of water and wipe off some of the stuff that's on the fretboard with the dry portion. All right, and as you might be able to see on there, there's a little bit of stuff on the paper towel, and that's all just the finger oil and everything like that. But then what you'll see is that you've gotten rid of a lot of the gunk. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that here on the rest of the frets, and then we'll get going with the next portion. So as you can see, a lot of finger oil and gunk came off of that fretboard, so that's why we give it just a quick wipe down once we replace the strings. So now let's go ahead and jump into the next portion. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is open up these Diodario strings. Again, these are not professional strings by any means. This is just a basic 3-pack that I got on Amazon, so it's nothing special, but they are nice strings and they will get the job done. So let's go ahead and open the package and see what's inside and go to the next portion. So when you open the box, what you'll see is there are 3 packs of strings, which is really nice. You buy them in a 3-pack. So I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 of these back in there. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and open this bag, and then I'll show you how each string is color coordinated with the diagram that they show on the actual packaging. So this is how the strings come. And when you pull them out, they're all bundled together just like that. And then as you can see, they do have all of the different colors to coordinate with the packaging. So if you look here, you will see you've got all the colors there and then all the colors on the string. So that helps you when you're stringing your guitar. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is take the low E string, and that's denoted by that gold right there with the letter E underneath it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this low E string. You can see it's got the gold right there. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take the actual gold piece and I'm gonna stick it in the hole on the actual bridge. And then you'll notice I laid these pins out in the same order as I took them out, so I know which pin correlates with which hole on the bridge. So as you can see on each pin, there's a small little cutout. And so what you wanna do is in that little groove, you wanna make sure that when you put the cord into the actual sound, or excuse me, into the bridge, that groove is seated properly, so it's basically holding the string down in the bridge just like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and insert that low E string into the bridge. So what we're gonna do is we are putting the string in, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this peg that we have and we're gonna stick it so that this groove is catching that string. And now we're just gonna hold it and pull the string out so it's seated properly. And then we're just gonna push it right in that little bridge just like that. And we wanna make sure that we seat the actual string properly into the bridge right there. All right, now the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to take the string, the smaller, skinnier side, and we're gonna run it through the hole right here that's up on the headstock. And so what I like to do is make sure that I turn the tuning knob so that the hole is facing directly down towards the bridge. And so as you can see right here, the hole allows me to slide the string directly through and then pull it through just like that. Okay, now just like I mentioned, over here on this end of the guitar, the string is seated properly in the bridge and we've got the peg holding the string in. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the string on this side and I'm gonna pull it back about 1 to 2 frets and see how much slack we have. There we go. And so now all of this slack is going to be used to tighten the string. And one thing I want to note is, this is an important note, the more that you pull the string back and the more slack you have over here, the more you're going to have to tune this tuning knob to adjust the pitch and tuning of the actual guitar string. So what I like to do is on the thicker strings, I pull it back a little bit more, and on the thinner strings, you'll see that I pull it back less because I don't want to have to turn the tuning knobs a bunch more times than necessary. So what I do is I go ahead and pull this about 1.5 frets. And now what I want to do is I want to make sure that the strings turn counterclockwise that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this string and I'm going to wrap it around just like that. And now you can see what's going to happen is when I start turning this tuning knob, it's going to make the guitar cord wrap downward towards the headstock. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so as you see, I'm holding the guitar string on that first fret. I'm going to go ahead and start turning the tuning knob, and you can see that the string is turning counterclockwise. Okay, so what you'll start seeing is as the string starts getting tighter, this guitar string will start coiling up tighter, and then what that's going to do is make sure that the string stays tight on the actual guitar. So now you can see it's actually got enough tension to make some notes. So we're not going to do anything as far as tuning right now. We're going to get all the strings attached to the guitar, and then we'll work on tuning later. But as you can see, the guitar string is coiling from the top down, and it's seated properly in the actual nut that's holding the guitar string. The same way that on the bridge, what we wanted to do is make sure it was seated properly. We're doing the same thing so the guitar string is seated properly on both ends. Now, one last thing that I like to do when putting on new strings is to make the strings coil tightly around the tuning peg by pulling the slack out of the new strings, just like this. All I'm doing is pulling the guitar string so it tightens the string around the tuning peg, and that'll help keep the new strings in tune. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing with the other 5 strings, and then we'll get going to the next portion. Okay, so I got the low E, the A, and the D strings all put on the guitar. What you can see is all of the guitar strings, they all wrap counterclockwise for the low E, the A, and the D. So all of the strings rotate outwards on the 3 lower strings. So now when we're doing the 3 higher strings, we're gonna do the same thing, except now we want these 3, which would be the G string, B string, and high E string. We want all 3 of these to rotate clockwise, so those are also rotating outboard. So the general idea is all of the 3 lower strings, which would be the low E, the A, and the D, you want to rotate outboard on the headstock. And then when you get to the G, B, and high E strings, you want those to rotate clockwise towards the outside of the headstock. So let's go ahead and do the same exact process we did for these lower 3 strings, but now we're going to do it for the G, B, and high E strings on the other portion of the guitar neck. All right, so we've got all the strings now put back on the guitar. And so as you can see, the last thing that we've got going is all these strings are very long on the headstock. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. Again, this comes down to personal preference. What I like to do is just use those wire cutters to clip these off and just bend them so they're not too long. That way you don't have to worry about the guitar strings hitting you in the eye or anything like that. What some people like to do is just coil them so they make little circles, but that's completely up to you. So as you can see, this is a very easy process. All we really had to do was remove the strings. We do that by loosening the tuning knobs and then pulling the strings out, removing the pegs, and then putting on the new strings. I hope that this was valuable for you. And just remember, if you're a beginner, this is something that you're gonna do multiple times as a guitar player, and this is something that gets easier as time goes along. So remember, buy your strings, whatever kind you prefer. If you can afford to get tools like this, do it. If not, it'll just be something where you have to turn the tuning knobs on your own and have fun and enjoy playing guitar.